Welcome to the Fancy a Brew podcast. I'm Andy the Northern Diver. In this series I'll be discussing adventure, conservation and progression in scuba diving with some really interesting and inspirational divers that you might or not have heard of. The podcast is supported by Northern Diver International and you the listener through Patreon. So grab yourself a brew and enjoy this week's episode. Right then, so it's series 2, episode 11. Octavia Whates. That's how you pronounce your surname, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get in. Welcome to Fancy a Brew podcast. Thanks for coming on, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's all right. Are you surviving lockdown okay? The third one, isn't it, for us?
Just about. Yeah, not too bad. It's lovely living in Devon, so we've got all the local beaches.
I'm pretty jealous. Looking at your Instagram, that's how we came across each other. Or I came across you. And it was at the weekend and you were doing some kind of jumping around thing, saying how you're going to start talking about sharks. And that's a big thing for me. I've developed an interest over years since I was a kid, probably first watched Jaws and thought, wow, that's ace.
Yeah.
But only really got into diving in the last few years, which has then brought me to sort of your door right now. We're chatting about sharks and that. So tell me a little bit about you that people won't know, because I didn't know you. So I would imagine most of my audience might know you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name's Octavia. I'm 18. I've grown up in Devon. I've been home educated almost all my life. I did go to South Devon Steiner School for a few years. But basically my mum home educated me and my two sisters. And so we grew up really on the beach by the river. I just find it fascinating. And I kind of developed a love of sharks through a fear of them at first.
Yeah.
We didn't ever have access to the internet really when we were younger. So it was mainly through friends and like my peer group, which there just seemed to be a general like negative energy about sharks. So I kind of latched onto that and thought, well, they're scary, like stay away from them. I got really scared of the sea. So I didn't really go near it, didn't go in it. And I just couldn't really figure out how to like cure this fear. And like everything you see online seems to be negative. But I did come across like the classic video of a great white like leaping out and catching a seal. And I thought that was actually quite fascinating. And I thought maybe I'll learn a bit about sharks. And turns out they're pretty cool. And there's not really anything to worry about, especially not in Devon.
Well, I was going to say, it's not like you live in South Africa, is it? So you can't even go swimming or surfing. And there's so many varieties of sharks. I would suggest, for my little knowledge that I have, there's so few of them that are actually likely to cause us anything to worry about. You can pretty much get in amongst them, can't you? And do sort of loads of stuff. So anyway, have you got a brew?
I have, just your bog standard.
What are you on?
It's brilliant, actually. Very good one. I normally actually would have oat milk. But we've run out of oat milk. But just an English breakfast today.
Love it.
Yeah.
I might as well just drop the bomb. I've not got a brew because I've been drinking brews all day, but I've gone with San Pellegrino water, trying to keep it up,
Brilliant choice.
Yeah, proper northern water, that, I tell you. Round here, they normally call it Corporation Pop. But because it's fizzy, they'll call it Corporation Champagne because it's fizzy.
Brilliant.
So thanks for coming on. And obviously, there's loads to talk about. And for me, coming across somebody that is home educated, a massive change. My wife is probably as far, she sort of went to a private school, and that's so far different to what I did, just going to like your normal local council run school or whatever it was. So how did you find home education? Because I suppose you've no comparison, but I mean, was it, did you do lots more outdoor stuff or?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I was in like a mainstream school for like year one. I was barely ever there though. Just didn't really like it. And my mum is a primary school teacher. And so she decided to home educate me and my 2 older sisters, and
Ace.
absolutely loved it. It just worked so well. I we'd spend most of the day at the beach, like reading books, and I mean, I seem to have done all right out of
Yeah.
it. Something must have worked. And I think I absolutely loved it. And I did go to Steiner School, which was also amazing. I actually went there for about 4 years, um, until I was about 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And again, it didn't quite work with me at the end. And so I decided to be home educated again. Um, and I did GCSEs at home, and did really well. And yeah, now I'm kind of here.
I suppose you're kind of
Absolutely
lucky though
obsessed.
to have a parent that is a qualified teacher, because we could all teach somebody
Yeah,
something, can't we? But to be an educator is a totally different thing. I'm an instructor in, you know, several different things, but
yeah,
I'm not a good teacher. There's a big difference between teaching and educating than there is instructing, I think. So
yeah,
I'm pretty envious now, because I hated being in the classroom. My favorite topics at
yeah,
school were stuff like your craft and design and technology, you know, woodworking,
yeah,
even making stuff in, like, we used to do home economics and like cooking and baking and that. I used to really thrive on that, but I'd be in like English and just sort of daydreaming, thinking, this is not for me. And
yeah,
I wish I'd enjoyed it more, because I'd have been better at some of the things I do want to do now, like the idea of writing for magazines about trips that we go doing scuba diving to be ace, but can't really put 2 sentences together without the word I in it 12 times.
yeah.
So
No, I think I did also. I really enjoy learning, like academic wise.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's really important to me. Like English, I love writing, I love reading, and I really like maths. I may not be the best at it, but I do really love them.
yeah.
I think that was a big part for me as well.
I think certainly for maths, there's always a calculator in there. It's
Yeah,
just knowing how to do the sum. That's hard, the half bit, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Half of the hard bit. So so where do you want to go with your love for sharks? What do you want to do with it? Do you want to go to like university? Do you want to just, you know, get a job in conservation and work alongside them? I don't know. What do you fancy doing?
I think the main goal would to be working uh, um,
You want to have a conversation with
conservation.
sharks?
Because I think, of course, I love doing what I'm doing now. I just love sharing my passion.
Yeah,
And I think just teaching people a bit more about them and changing people's perspective, I think, is really the most important thing to me. And to be honest, I don't really mind if I just change one person's perspective on it, because that's one more than none. So I think conservation would be the way I'd love to go. But just education. I don't have any plans to go to university or anything. I don't have A levels, so if I did want to, I think I'd have to get them.
yeah.
But I think through what I'm doing now, I just recently started my Instagram, to kind of try and show a few more people what I do. And I think one of my main interests is British sharks as well. Like around here, I think it's incredible, all the wildlife in general that we get here. I think it's a bit understated. And just, yeah, share that with other people.
I think that's one good thing that's come out of the sort of poor last 12 months that we've had, is that
Yeah,
people have started to go just outside of their own boundaries and just having a look what's around it. So there's sort of friends of my parents that live locally, and I've seen them posted on perhaps Facebook during the summer. They were going on walks 2 miles from the front door. They were finding things they didn't know existed, and they've lived here for
yeah,
30 years. And certainly if you live on the coast, you know, you can walk up and down that beach, which, look, take 2 seconds at your Instagram and you can see, you can find all sorts of things, whether it be dead sharks, egg cases, all bits of seaweed, and then was it a dead bird's head somebody found this morning?
yeah, yeah. That was horrible.
Yeah, I bet. So
Yeah.
you've done quite a bit around the beaches and that. Tell us a bit more about that.
So it started off really, I'm sure you've heard of it, the Shark Trust website. And I saw that this citizen science project, the Great Egg Case Hunt, and I'd heard of mermaids' purses and egg cases before. I kind of seen them, but I didn't really know that much about them. But I learned a bit more on the Shark Trust website and thought, actually, this would be really fun to do. And I kind of just went out, did it, and absolutely loved it. And then obviously I'd noticed all the plastic before as well on the beaches, and you obviously pick up a few bits that you see. But then I thought, whilst I'm looking for egg cases, I might as well be picking up plastic as well. And so that is one of my real areas of interest as well, is trying to get as much of the plastic off our beaches, because it's horrible, some of the plastic we see now. Even since I was younger, there did not used to be that much. And seeing wildlife that, like, I've seen quite a few birds caught in plastic, it's quite heartbreaking. And just the beaches just aren't quite the same. And so, yeah, I spend most of my free time on a beach, normally with my mum, with our litter pickers, and yeah, and rock pooling. I love rock pooling. Just looking for all the wildlife. I think it's incredible.
I was away a couple of years ago on it must have been a diving course, and my wife volunteered for a beach clean near us. We're not too far from the coast. You can see it. The majority of things they were finding, little plastic earbuds, little cotton bud things that you clean your ears with, hundreds of them. But obviously they've banned them now from being made of plastic, haven't they? That's probably why. But it is shocking the amount of crap you can find. And even just dives. I've been on little coastal dives, and it's not really their fault, blokes who are fishing, to catch a fish for dinner or whatever. But you will get snagged every now and again. You're going to snap off. And I wouldn't probably be jumping in and trying to find my lost line and stuff. But they're still baited hooks, aren't they, that then get caught. So it's a shame.
Yeah, we find so much fishing wire, like the lures, ropes, so much around here. And it's really hard to see a solution for that, really, because the fishing industry is a really important one as well, especially around here. But it's really hard to find a solution for that.
I suppose on the grand scheme of things, if you were to weigh it up, what's worse? One fishing hook or lure that's just, or a great big net that everything in its dog can get caught in, I suppose. It's a more sustainable way of angling, I suppose, isn't it? But it's still something will die because something got lost or snapped or whatever. So it's a shame.
Yeah.
So what about these egg cases then? Have you found anything that's pretty rare? Have you been shocked?
I haven't, no. To be honest, there aren't really many rare ones we can find here.
No.
I think it would be very extreme to find a rare one, which is quite sad because it would be exciting. But I did once find one with a shark in.
Did you?
Swimming around, which
cool.
has to be the top moment of my life. It was absolutely amazing.
So what did you do with that?
So it advises that you put it back, like in the water, try and wedge it down, and there just happened to be a snorkeler going out, so I gave it to him.
All right.
He wedged it quite far out, but it was amazing. I think some people take them to aquariums. I'm not sure if they can do anything with them there, but yeah, I can't believe it still. It was incredible. I've got a video of it. I'll probably put it on Instagram soon.
Oh, that's ace. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I've had a couple of people on in the past that deal with all the dead cases. They're more on the sort of northwest tip of Scotland. I think she's based out of Aberdeen, and I think Chris is somewhere else. So she's called Dr. Lauren Smith. She's on Instagram as Saltwater Life, but she's a shark scientist, and they came across some egg cases that were pretty rare, and they were massive. Honestly, like proper handbags. They weren't a mermaid's purse, a mermaid's shopping bag. Honestly, they were massive. But they were dead rare, but they were in a place that gets dredged quite a lot. So it was important that they got the story out in the media, to try and make these sort of marine protected areas, where they can't come 3 miles offshore.
Yeah.
So they have to stay beyond that because these are the sort of egg laying grounds or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think like Scotland and the north, I'd love to go up there soon as lockdown restrictions are eased a
Yeah.
bit, because you can find some amazing egg cases up there.
Well, we did what was supposed to be a basking shark research trip in September with
Oh yeah.
basking shark Scotland. So we drove
Oh
up to
wow.
Oban and then caught the ferry over to the island of Col.
Yeah.
But we got the tail end of this hurricane that was supposed to be like the most unsurvivable one in America. But because it's quite out and exposed in the ocean, I'm pointing up there because I've got a big map on my wall. Not that you can see it. I'll stop pointing now because it's pointless. But so we got the tail end. So the water was really choppy. So we didn't see any fins at all. But what we did
Oh
see when
no.
we snorkeled, the beaches were like the whitest sand you've ever seen. I mean, I've spent most of my summer holidays down in Devon and Cornwall, and they just don't compare. They're absolutely pristine because nobody's on them. But the marine life is just in abundance. There's stuff everywhere. You know, you can't be in the water for a couple of minutes before things are banging into you and that. It was brilliant.
Wow. Did you get to see any at all? Any
Nah,
basking sharks?
not one. So the worst
Oh
bit
no.
was, so we had to leave on the Sunday, but there's a couple of people that had come on the same trip as us, but had brought their cars, but there was no room on the ferry home on the Sunday. So they stayed an extra couple of days. So they went out on the boat on the Sunday as we caught the ferry home. And as soon as he got on the ferry, he got a text message, guess what we've seen? And then next
Oh,
thing, WhatsApp's going mad and all these great big fins. And so jealous.
oh no.
So jealous. But
Wow, that's like one of my main dreams is to go basking shark Scotland. It looks
yeah.
amazing.
Well,
Well, maybe another time.
there's a book and a film called A Ring of Bright Water. Have you read or heard of that?
No.
So it's a story about a guy that's from, I think he's from London. He spent some time in maybe Iraq or the Middle East anyway. And for whatever
Yeah.
reason, when he comes home, he buys himself an otter, but can't live in London with an otter running about his house. The
Yeah.
film's quite funny. It's almost like a carry-on film to start with. This otter's just running amok all around his house and his flat or whatever. He's wrecking it. So he decides he's going to move up to Scotland. And he's living out in this little tiny sort of bothy right on the coast, minding his own business, falls in love with someone who runs, I think she works in the shop or she's a doctor or something. And then they go out for a swim with this otter, or he's in a boat and the otter's having a swim and he sees a basking shark. So he kills it. I mean, bear in mind, I think it's based in like the 60s, 70s, this book. So it was kind of okay. That's what they did.
Right.
Anyway, he drags it in and they live off shark meat for like a year because it's so big. But they must have butchered one because you can see him chopping it up and like you know,
Really?
like it's okay. Anyway, it turns out he was doing it to feed his otter and his otter didn't like it or something. But it's a cracking read. I think it's a better read than it is to watch on the television, which quite
Yeah.
often they mostly are that way. I think you can watch it on Netflix, on YouTube, but it's called A Ring of Bright Water.
Oh,
But
I
that was
have
my
to read
first
that.
encounter of a basking shark, and I was like, "Wow, they're flipping massive! I need
Yeah.
to get in with one of them." So for the
Yeah.
last 20 years, I've thought, "Oh, they swim up our coast past the Isle of Man. I might be able to," and
Yeah.
it's just never happened. And then this opportunity came in January. Let's get on this research trip. So we get in the water, photograph them, take DNA samples, water samples. We were going to sit in a laboratory, and then obviously COVID kicked off, didn't it? So
Yeah.
we didn't get in the water with them because that hurricane came over. That's it. We had to all social distance it, so we didn't get in a lab with anything. We literally had a lesson on a laptop. It was the best they could do with with the facilities that we had. But if
Yeah.
we'd have seen them, it would have just been better than my wedding day. It would have been immense. It would have been
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
But so we'll see where it goes. So one of the things you mentioned earlier when you wrote to me with all your details and stuff was you've done some dune restoration.
Yeah. So that was
I'm
actually
assuming
part.
sand dune. You mean, yeah?
Yeah. 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 That was part of the Steiner School, a class trip we went on,
Cool.
which it's a tiny island off Germany.
Right.
It's always stormy really, but the weekend we were there, it was beautiful weather. It was absolute paradise. It was amazing. And yeah, so we did some dune restoration there, which basically we were kind of just hammering in fences really, so that more sand could build up and restore these dunes.
Yeah.
And that really inspired me. And just working on the beach and thinking we were obviously helping like the natural world, and obviously it wasn't directly due to human destruction that they
Yeah.
had almost like reduced the dunes, but just the fact that we were helping them, it felt amazing. And that really inspired me. And just that whole trip, that island was amazing. The wildlife on it, white sand, it was incredible.
How does the fencing work then? Is it like, so when the wind would pick the sand up, it's going to, some of it will bash against the fence and drop and then not be blown away sort of thing?
Yeah, it, like all catches, and then gradually builds up. And there's layers and layers of fence that
Yeah.
that like you all put in.
Right.
And yeah, and it all builds up,
Cool.
and obviously creates more habitats for all the wildlife as well.
I remember as a kid going to this nature reserve, supposed to be full of red squirrels, Formby Beach, I think it is. And we went in the winter and people were turning up in their cars with their old Christmas trees. I wonder if that was what it's for.
I have seen them do that in Cornwall as well.
Yeah.
They're meant to be brilliant for that. Yeah. I think that, yeah, it's one of the main things they use now. But yeah, it's a really great idea.
Well, it'll all just break down. It'll all be good, won't it? It's not gonna.
Yeah.
It's not like you're putting plastic or metal in there that's some foreign sort of object, is it? So not so bad. So what are you doing with yourself now then? Tell me about this Instagram.
So basically, my main aim is to educate people, and normally I would be working at my local cafe.
Right.
I normally work almost full time, so I don't have that much spare time. But in my spare time, I do go to the beach, and obviously at the moment it's closed, so I seem to have a lot of spare time. And I thought, I have been thinking for a while, maybe I should do something with all this. And I just thought I'd just give it a crack. Even if a few people see it, just thought it's worth it. So I've really been enjoying it actually as well, sharing everything, like from the sharks to the litter picking, to all the wildlife as well. And I'm hoping it will go further as well. Like I'd love to learn to dive sometime. I think that would be incredible.
Well, you've just jumped the gun. That was my next question. So why, if you're interested in all this marine stuff, why aren't you in the water? What's going on? Is it because you were scared of sharks, or you just not had the opportunity?
I occasionally go in the water now. I still have a bit. I'm not scared of sharks. I just have a bit of a psychological thing going on. So I haven't. I don't really swim in the sea that much, but occasionally go bodyboarding or something. But I do think I'd love to dive, and I'd definitely love to do it around here.
Yeah.
But I just haven't quite taken that step yet.
Well, yeah, let me put you in touch with somebody then. And she was one of my very first guests, probably in the first 10 episodes. And we're on about, I've put your episode 11 of series 2. We did like 56 of the last series. So we're well into like the 60s, 70s now. But she's called the Scuba Psyche. Now, she's not a psyche as in she can speak to spirits and stuff like that, but she's more of a psychologist. And she talks to people who have sort of reached brick walls or barriers that they can't sort of get past to help them progress as a diver. Now, I don't know how she goes about doing it from memory, you know, whether she does it over Zoom calls or she does it via emails and that. But if you look her up on she's on Instagram. That's how I came across her. And she does an awful lot with like the girls at scuba and things like that. So maybe if it is something that you or anybody else is sort of struggling with, just to go, I want to do it, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
How am I going to do it? It might just be a 10-minute chat with somebody that just goes, you know, let's rationalize your fears. Well, you're frightened of one of those great white sharks jumping out of the water. Well, there's none around here, so you can get rid of that.
Yeah.
And you might be frightened of drowning. Well, you don't have to swim because you've got this in your mouth. And, you know, I ain't no psychiatrist, but, you know, I would assume that she would rationalize some fears or anxieties that people have. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my kids are murdered. You know, I love the outdoors, and my kids, they're all girls. My youngest is 16. I've got a 20 and 21-year-old. None of them want to get in the water. None of them are interested in the outside. So I'll get them to listen to this because, you know, hopefully it'll inspire them to have a little bit of interest. I'll tell you what stood out like a sore thumb for me. When I saw your first video and you were like dead bubbly and lively and really confident. And I remember my first video I ever did just over 12 months ago. So probably September 2019. And I couldn't have been the other end of the scale. You know, we were poles apart. I was like dead nervous and dead, right, my name's Andy and I'm going to talk about diving, you know, dead straight faced. Where you were like beaming, great big smile, full of life. And that's what made me think, well, I don't even know who you are, but you're interested in sharks and you seem to be bubbly and interesting. So let's have a chat and see what you're up to, because obviously when I started doing podcasting and YouTube, I was the same. You know, if somebody watches it, great. If they don't, well, maybe they will one day. But you kind of need that little step forward, don't you? You know, coming together with different people and different things gives you different ideas and hopefully puts you in front of people you wouldn't normally. So if people want to find you then, how can they find you if they want to look at what you're up to?
To be honest, I think the best way at the moment is Instagram. I think that's the only place you're ever going to find me.
Right. So what's your name?
Octavia Whates.
No, not your name. Your name on Instagram, you lunatic.
Octavia Shark Larks.
Yeah.
So yeah, pop over, check me out. But there's not much about me at the moment. I think maybe I'll put a bit more, because I think people might be interested in like my home education and things. But yeah, at the moment it's quite a lot of like litter, sharks, features, but maybe put a bit more about myself on.
Even if you just went, if you lived near a park or near a field, or better still near the coast, but if you just went out with a carrier bag, an old carrier bag, you know, and a pair of gloves on, or if you can get hold of a set of litter pickers, are probably only a tenner off Amazon, go out and just, you know, for half an hour. It's half an hour that you're not sat on the couch, and it's half an hour you're breathing fresh air, isn't it? And then the added effect of that is you're doing some good. And if you did it every day, imagine you'd fill a skip with rubbish, you'd think, wouldn't you? So just by you doing these little litter picks or telling people about sharks, it might just get more people interested in using recyclable stuff or actually recycling in the first place. So you never know where it might lead.
Yeah, exactly.
So what plans have you got? Where do you want, where are you actively like going to take this, do you think?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure yet. I really do hope maybe like my own series or something like that. I'd be really interested in, obviously about sharks, but also about other marine life. And I think plastic, like I've said, is a very important issue to me. We've always grown up with like limited amount of plastic, like food, but also like toys. Like we never had loads of toys. Last year we made it our mission to only put our black bin out once, and we succeeded. But we've since doing litter picking, like last year we've put it out so many more times. And I think that really made me realize how much of a difference it actually does make to reduce your own litter. Like you wouldn't have thought it, but if you really think about if you need this plastic, and it does really impact the environment, even one small bit.
Have you thought about starting a YouTube channel?
I have thought about it. I kind of chose Instagram, I think, because I thought it would launch me a bit better at first. But I think it potentially is something that I'd like to do in the future. I'm just not exactly sure what I'd kind of focus on or what to do it on yet, but I would love to.
The reason I asked is I started with YouTube and then thought Instagram would complement what I did on YouTube. And then since starting this podcast more, I've come across different people that sort of showcase what work they do on YouTube, you know, the quality of work they can do. And then they sort of do snippets of that on Instagram. So Instagram pulls them into YouTube, but YouTube's a much better forum, certainly for getting paid from it as well. You know, when you build up to a point, you do get some return. I mean, I'm at that point now, but I don't know what the return's ever going to be. I don't think it's going to be much.
Yeah.
But from what I can gather, that's where the success is, because it's almost like a TV channel. I was sat on it the other night, just on my iPad. My missus was watching something else, some other tat on the telly. So I was just flicking through, watching how-to videos and all sorts of stuff. And when people do a series like that, they call them playlists on this. You can have one that's all about sharks, one that's about litter, one that's about other types of conservation that you've done, one about marine life. And, you know, it really is an easy way of showcasing your abilities. It doesn't have to be like high-end production value. Just, you know, there's some simple steps that the YouTube creator account talks about, how you can set up a YouTube account properly, and you do your thumbnails and your description, your hashtags and all that rubbish. But I find it really sort of liberating to come up with an idea, go and do it, and then put it on there and see how it goes. You know, if it doesn't do very well, I wouldn't say I was disheartened, but when they do really well, I'm like flying. You know, I'm sky high about it. But I think Instagram, for me anyway, obviously I'm 20 years older than you, so we're completely different mindsets in that respect.
Yeah.
I'm making films that are longer than perhaps 20, 30 seconds. So maybe, I don't know whether it'd work. I've just not really tried to use YouTube for that yet. Instagram for that. So
yeah, I think that definitely, if obviously you want longer videos, I think that it would definitely be the way to go, YouTube. And I can see, like, I do have to whittle down like a lot. Like, there's so much information that I want to say, but you've got to keep people interested. Like, you don't want to rattle on for like a minute and a half.
Like me, like I've just done then.
People just don't listen.
I'll cut it out now then. I'll just take it straight out. I'll delete it. So what sort of learning, what do you do to enhance your education within the sort of marine world that you're talking about?
So I've done a few online courses, and I did one on sharks it started, I think, August.
Yeah.
Which you could just do a free one, or you could pay for to get a proper certificate. I just did the free one. But I found that brilliant. Like, there were so many resources, and there's lots of online courses you can still do. I just signed up to a couple. One of them I've already started a bit on, which is paleontology. It's like the study of ancient marine reptiles, which completely fascinates me. So I've literally done one lesson on that, which is really cool, I think. I think I'm going to have to go over it a lot of times over it to start sinking in, because there's a lot of big words in that. And I've also started one on solid waste management, which haven't properly got into yet. But yeah, so I'm hoping to finish them before I go back to work at the cafe.
Where have you found those? Is it all Shark Trust stuff, or?
No, so I think it's edx.com. I think it's maybe called. And it's run by different universities, kind of contribute to them. But they're also called MOOCs, which stands for Massive Online Open Course, I think. And yeah, they're brilliant, I think. My sisters had done a few before, so I'd kind of heard about them from that, but I didn't think there'd be so many. But they're brilliant, yeah.
I'll have to try and find them, because not that I've got any free time. I mean, even last year, I set up a subscription to National Geographic, and I've had 3 through the post now, and one's come before I've opened the last one. You know, I really struggle to find some real good just downtime. And last Sunday was the first one. Got a load of logs out the garden, put them on the fire, sat there with a cup of tea, opened National Geographic, fell asleep. Because I don't sit down. You know, I rarely sit down for a break. I think my body just went, right, it must be bedtime now. Go. I'm horrendous. So what else can we cover? What else have we not talked about? Is there anything?
I'm interested to know how you started diving.
Right. So I was in the Army Reserves about 5 years ago, and there was a bloke who I kind of came across maybe 5-6 years before that, but we'd kind of forgotten each other. He was a different rank than I was. He was an officer. I was still a soldier. And we just got chatting over a brew. And, one thing led to another. I do this. What do you do? And he said, oh, I'm running a scuba diving expedition to go to Fuerteventura, so the Canaries. And it's going to be based around the conservation of angel sharks. How do you fancy coming? I'm like, mate, I proper fancy coming. How can I get on it? Make sure I'm on that. He said, well, you need to basically go away, and if you can train to be a qualified diver before you come, and I had lots of time, it was about 6 or 7 months. If you can do that before you come out to us, you'll be more like, you'll be able to do more on your own. Then you're not going to be sort of being monitored as such as a brand new diver. You'll be diving and training at the same time, and then doing stuff around these sharks. So I went home and told my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, and I went, yeah, I've got this opportunity to go on a they call them expeditions in the army. Some other people laugh at them because they're not really expeditions, but that's what the army calls them. So do you fancy learning to scuba dive together? And then I'll just go on this trip, and but we started to scuba dive, and she was up for it. So jump forward from February to October. I managed to get her on the trip as well. And she's not military. She works in forensics. So we went out there, really got friendly with the guy who was running it, who lives out there. And then the guy who was doing the actual shark conservation piece, Fernando, he runs the Shark Education Institute. So he's from Portugal, but he lives over in the Canaries, and he does a lot with angel sharks and sharks around the entire world. So we got friendly with them. I've had both of those two fellas on the podcast now. So Steve was the first 2 episodes, and Fernando was about episode 6 or 7. So there's a bit of a developing theme here of sharks, isn't there? So we came back from that, and it was just a mad passion for me. It keeps me out of mischief. I've devoted my entire life outside of running my own business and being married and being a dad. Everything I think about is diving now. So in 4 years, I've gone from never stepping in the water to having all the kit I could possibly ever dream to own and doing every kind of diving within the recreational limits. So like above 40 meters or so, or down to 40 meters, that you could possibly want to do. And I've not dived all over the world yet, but we're close to it. So we've got a trip to the Red Sea in July. So we're going slightly further out into the Red Sea. So not so much doing wreck diving this year. It'll be all the bigger sort of pelagic stuff. So like mantas, whale sharks, oceanic white tips, that kind of stuff. And then we've booked another research trip for September to go to South Africa. So a place just down from Cape Town. So if you look at a map, it's just south of Cape Town, like the next cove down, called Gansby, with a company called the White Shark Company. And we're going to do loads of sort of like research and stuff. It's supposed to be a volunteer thing. I think that's a bit of a blag. You volunteer to pay $2,000 to go away for 2 weeks each. But in that, it's like, it's the best kind of holiday for me. I don't do sitting around on a beach. I want to go and, dive and mess around with sharks and take photographs and document it and make videos and stuff. So it'll be great. So that's me as a diver in a nutshell. But I was, interestingly enough, like you. So as a kid, there used to be an Olympic swimming pool near us with diving boards, all the high diving ones. And I was like 11 years old, going off the top stage. We were in there every weekend, me and my brother. Loved swimming. My first open water entry into the sea was off those pedalos you can sometimes get on holiday.
Yeah.
So we took one of them out into the bay, and I thought, snorkel a mask job, I'll jump in here and I'll have a whale of a time. Jumped in, realized how vast it was, and panicked. I had like a panic attack, got out, sulked, and just rode my pedalo back home. And like sulked all afternoon because I didn't like it, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then more and more, as I was getting into the water, I keep having these little mini panic attacks and thought, why am I not comfortable in the water? And then when it came to scuba diving, I can't tell you what changed or why, but maybe I just had to fight it myself, but got in and loved it. So now I'm a qualified solo diver, so I will go on my own different places, whether it be in the sea or just in local quarries and stuff near us. And I feel completely at home and comfortable and confident and competent in my own skill set, which is obviously I've had to build up for quite some time. But there's so many opportunities with diving, you know, whether it be photography or making films or just research. You know, have you heard of Sea Search before?
Yeah.
Well, we were supposed to be on one of them last year. I think it was last March, you know, just as we got locked down. So they teach you, don't they, all about what's under the water. And then you go out and you do little surveys of what is there and report on that, you know. So that might be a good way of starting off if you've not already done it.
Yeah, well, I think diving could potentially be the way forward for me. I think it just is incredible. Like, you can breathe underwater. I think that really interests me, and I think it's amazing. I like the amount you can see as well, and obviously not just in the UK, but like going abroad on trips. I think to be able to scuba dive as well just like broadens everything so much.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of lads that are based in Wales, and they've kind of, although they're marine biologists and proper, you know, cinematographers, but they've put together an underwater series based in Wales, and they're talking the Welsh language as well as the English to try and keep it real for over there. But they've done it so well. Honestly, it looks like BBC have been involved because they've got high-end kit. But they're studying sharks and seagrass and seahorses and things like that. So not going very far. They're not going very deep. You know, so not spending vast quantities of money to go out well out to sea and stuff. But, you know, that's how they've made their mark through YouTube. You know, they've been releasing little snippets on Instagram every now and again, and people are going, "Whoa, who's this and what's that?" And then they've been picked up by BBC, The One Show. I think one of them's had some, or two of them may have had some stuff on Discovery Shark Week. You know, and they're just a couple of local lads, you know, that have not, well, I suppose they have specialised because they're the marine biologists and cinematographers, but, you know, they're not sort of born into that where their dad works for the BBC and they've got a leg up. They've grafted and done some real good stuff and just got it out into the sort of public arena, which without paying loads of money is quite hard to actually build up that profile. And I've got hundreds of videos on YouTube now, but still don't get hundreds of people watching them. You've got to find that sort of niche that people want to watch and be entertaining, I suppose. So it's flipping hard. So I don't envy you being at the bottom of the ladder, but everyone, this is what I had to learn. Everyone started at the bottom of that ladder, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it's just climbing it. It's the tough one.
Yeah. Do you do photography as well?
A little bit. I'm trying. So I got my first camera about the same time as I started YouTube. So back end of 2019. And then we went straight to the Red Sea and my housing flooded. So I didn't have a camera anymore. So then I bought another one, which then the housing broke. So then I luckily got a deal with Olympus. So they swapped both the housing and the camera for a new one that was more up to date. And I've just bought like a new housing for that camera now because the one that came with it, it just wasn't brilliant. And I want, because I'm doing it more and more, I wanted like a professional grade one. I've got a professional grade camera, but I really need everything to work all the time and have that instant repair facility on my doorstep if I can. But with a stills camera, you can video on them. So you can take great pictures with them, but you can also take great video. Whereas I'd argue that perhaps a GoPro, you can take great video on, but your stills will never be right because you can't dial in the sort of different settings that'll change the exposure and the light values and stuff.
Yeah.
But GoPros are definitely the way forward. If you've not got anything, get a GoPro for 300 quid. You can take some great footage.
Well, yeah, I have like a knockoff GoPro basically. And even on that, the stuff I've got is pretty good. And I love, like, I literally have a piece of driftwood and I just taped on my GoPro or fake GoPro to the end.
Yeah.
And I just kind of stick it in the water if I go paddleboarding or something.
Ace.
And even that I love. So I think I'd definitely be investing in a better camera sometime soon, because
The thing is, it's so expensive. It's just ridiculous.
It's so expensive. Yeah.
Like,
it's not just even the camera itself, like all the accessories for it. It's so expensive. Yeah. It's an expensive hobby, diving in.
You're not kidding. Well, I'm glad really that I didn't take it up when I was like 21 when I had my first opportunity to, because I think my passion for it would have just died out because I wouldn't have been able to do it to the levels I am. I'm lucky now. My kids have grown up a bit. I'm doing all right in the business that I run. And, we don't have an extravagant lifestyle. We've got a nice house. We live in a nice area. But my money's my own. I pay half the bills, and then I can do what I want with it, so I can afford to. And I sometimes wonder how hard it is for younger people that perhaps either are going through education or don't have a means to having all this extra cash. How can you get into it? But I've seen lads that have bought these sort of knockoff GoPros off Amazon or whatever, and they've done just as well. The downside to them perhaps is the build quality, they just don't last as long.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with it. They still film in 4K. They still have a good hour battery life. It's just, will it still be alive in a year's time? But if you've paid 40 quid for it, other than the fact you've got to throw it in the bin, I don't know. They're great.
Yeah.
But certainly sticking it on a stick, a bit of driftwood, things like that. People are like that. You put it on Instagram and people will be like, how quirky is that? Because you're not using another lump of plastic, are you? That it's all kind of cool.
And of course it's free as well. So
that
was the main reason.
So if you've got any plans coming up in the new year, let's just say that everything goes away by Easter and we get released for spring, summer, and all the rest of it. Have you got any plans?
Back to work. Straight back to work. Full time at the cafe, which I absolutely love. It's a brilliant job. It's right on the water side.
Wow.
We live just by the River Dart, so it's literally just down the road from us.
Yeah.
And so I love it there. It's so beautiful down there. And just in my spare time, carry on doing what I'm doing: beach cleaning, finding egg cases, learning more. But I also really, really want to see the basking sharks when they come in the spring to Cornwall. I really, really want to see them this year. We missed them last year.
Would you get in with them? Would you be comfortable doing that?
I go through this situation so many times in my mind. I just can't work out if I would. I probably would if I went with like Basking Shark Scotland. I'm sure I would.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. But like maybe like the Lizard Point, like stand on the edge and just watch them. But
what about they do blue shark trips from sort of your neck of the woods, don't they?
I'd love to do that. They're amazing.
And that's only snorkeling. Again, you don't need to be a diver. Just a wetsuit and a mask is enough.
Yeah, I definitely think I would do that. I think the blue sharks are amazing. I think we're so lucky to have them right off our coast as well. So I do think I would really love to do that. I'm not sure what the situation will be in the summer, but potentially this summer, that would be amazing.
If I can get down there, I'd love to. It's just you never know. It's not worth booking anything right now, is it? Because it's all up in air. But we shall see. Well, good luck with whatever you end up doing, and hopefully, I'll be seeing you soon doing something, and making a bit of a mark. Because clearly, for someone, I don't want to sound condescending, but someone of an age that most people are just tossing it off and not really asked about the world, it is nice to see. And I wish, my kids would do a little bit more. We don't live on the coast, but they could do a little bit more to help other people or help the rest of the world, I guess. So thanks for coming on and sharing your sort of story, and good luck to you with your Instagram. And if it goes anywhere else like YouTube and that, let me know and I'll make sure I subscribe to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I'll see you later.
You too. See you later.
Thanks very much to this week's guest for sharing their stories and interesting tales about the underwater world. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did recording it. For more information on this episode, take a look at the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. and follow us on Instagram for the latest news. Thanks again to Northern Diver International and those of you who have supported me through Patreon. Take care, and I'll see you on YouTube.